Hey there, and welcome to Your Worth Your Way, the podcast that's all about helping you understand that you are worthy of prioritizing your own joy without feeling guilty or selfish. I'm Debbie Lucas, the Joy Alchemist, and each week I'll be bringing you honest, heartfelt conversations with incredible guests, coaches, thought leaders, and soulful humans who share their stories and insights on self-worth, confidence, personal growth, and how to create a life that feels authentically yours. This isn't about quick fixes or cookie cutter advice. It's about real talk, practical takeaways, and plenty of soulful inspiration to help you live life your way. So grab your favorite cuppa and let's dive into today's episode. And today I am joined by the wonderful Therese Skelly, an intuitive business mentor, transformational coach, and author of the best-selling book, Love-Based Mission, How to Create a Business That Serves Your Soul. With over 20 years of experience blending psychology, business strategy, and energetics, she helps mission-driven women uncover hidden blocks, own their value, and create businesses that align with their purpose. Known for her fierce yet loving approach, she guides clients to step into their next level identity, attract their ideal clients, and achieve success with more ease and confidence. And we'll be diving into how subconscious patterns, epigenetics, and our culture set women up to settle for less, play small, and not be bold. So welcome, Therese. It's lovely to have you.
It's so lovely to be here. And I'm just loving your accent. So I would rather just listen, but I'll be doing some talking, but I'm so much of a fan of like, oh, the brogue. Do you call it the brogue? Because I'm Irish. We call it the brogue.
Yeah,
Is it Scottish? The brogue? Okay. Loving the brogue and happy to be here.
Thank you. And so, we've got a special guest who wants to say hello. Hold on.
Nice.
Nobody's actually seen him on the podcast yet. This is George.
Oh my gosh. Hi, buddy.
You gonna go sit with them? Right, there you go. Oops.
That is a welcome thing to see a pup.
So none of my guests have, or my guests or my audience have ever been introduced to George. So there you go. For those that will, if you're listening on the podcast platforms, go and check the YouTube video and you'll get to see George.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about your story and what led to the work that you're doing right now.
Oh, it's interesting because I've been doing it a lot of decades. So I will say I started out as a psychotherapist, and Debbie, I never ever thought I would leave it. I loved it. I was so happy and it worked really well because I had 2 kids. I was a mom. Got to work part-time. And then I was going to this psychic, this intuitive lady, and she'd say, you're leaving, right? And I was like, oh, that was heresy. I was like, but are you kidding? There's no way. And she goes, no, you're destined for more. And that's where we start, right? Because of my history, my trauma. I thought I was happy, but I was living in I'm a mom, so I have to have a minivan and I have 2 kids. Like I was living in that kind of a world. And so I went to coaching school. I became a life coach. And this is funny. You'll love this. 2001. That's when I graduated from life coaching school. I told you, decades. And I went to my first networking event and I said, I'm a coach. And they said, golf or tennis. I was like, life, like coach your life, right? And it was so new. And it was like, what the heck? And so from that decision, I got an opportunity then to, I saw an ad, a newsletter that said business coaches wanted. And what you have to know is I have a master's degree in counseling and a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, by the way, fun times. I didn't even know what a spreadsheet was. I never worked in the corporate world. I don't know how to, I suck business stuff, right? So I'm like, so I see this ad and what happened, suddenly my hands are heading to the keyboard. My head's going, are you freaking kidding me? And I'm like, hey. And the next day I was a business coach. And so that was the first time. And this is so important for me because if I would listen to the 3D, the voice in my head, I would have talked myself out of the most important decision I ever made. And it was the first time that I was really aware of like, oh, I'm following this guidance. And I call that soul. So for me, it was like my soul knew. And my head's like screaming, going, "You don't know. Are you freaking kidding?" Like, talk about imposter syndrome. Hell, I was an imposter. I totally was, for sure. So that one decision literally changed the trajectory of my whole life. More than my marriage, more than my kids, like that one decision. And then along the way, I started following more of the soul nudges, right? And so I came out like a marketing strategist, business coach, because it wasn't back in those early 2000s. We didn't have podcasts like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did not talk about spirit and soul and blah. So,
Yeah.
so I kind of snuck in the mindset stuff for a decade. And then what was happening is I started knowing that I knew stuff that how do I know you have a curse? Like, wait, how do I know that you brought this in from your grand, like, and so it was a weird time of trying to go, oh, I have some gifts I'm not even aware of it. I didn't go to school for this stuff, right? So thankfully, one of my beautiful clients said, you brought it in with you. So I was gifted this
Yeah.
magnificent, intuitive way of being, this whole energy component. So the work I do today is I blend, like if I were working with you, I could say, okay, let's see how open, this is a pendulum.
Yeah.
If I'm not holding a pendulum, I would be like, okay, how open are you to, creating love in your life? I'd be like, oops, only
Yeah.
12%. Let's work on that. And I identify the energetic block, and then I know exactly, I use the background in psychology, I use the energy. And if it's a business, because I don't work with only business people,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can work the business stuff, or I can do whatever life stuff. So it's just been a journey of saying yes to all the gifts that I have gotten or received or given. It's been a fascinating, and I love that you're worth your way. It's very hard to own your value. That's been my lifelong wound, right? And it was super easy when I'm like, I'm a business coach and I can teach you marketing, but I'm like, wait, I know stuff, and what is that? Like then it's like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. What an amazing journey. And like, I love that bit that you said at the start there, like, I thought I was happy.
Yeah.
And I think that's, a lot of us and a lot of the listeners and myself included, will be that way. And I've experienced that. And I remember I was doing some journaling and some reflection recently, and like I remember like writing down like I can't remember the exact time, but there was a time in my not so distant past where I remember thinking, I would love to say I love my life right now, but I didn't feel like I could. There was nothing on the surface. I had a good job,
Yeah, yeah.
beautiful home, family,
There's
holidays,
something was
all the
missing.
things. But there was just something that made me feel like I couldn't say I love my life right now. And, a few years on, my life looks incredibly different. And I can genuinely say I love my life. But, so different from what looked like the success and the having it all together and everything like that. And so that was really powerful for me. And I think, like you said, you were being a mom, you were caught up in all just the kind of the daily grind and hustle of family
Right.
life and people pleasing and keeping all
Oh,
kids, the husband,
girl.
everybody happy. So that was really beautiful. And I love that bit that you talk about when you applied for that advert, when, as you say, like logically in your mind everything was going, no, this makes no
Yeah.
sense whatsoever. Why would you do that? But you listen to, there was something in your soul, and
Yep.
that, it's when we start tapping into that things really get kind of like life starts to flow.
It starts to flow, but it messes you up, right? And so one of the things that I've sort of discovered along the way, because I never understood, Debbie, I could be working with somebody and I'm really good. I'm like, I know my stuff, right? And I would like, okay, here's a strategy, here's the plan. Are you ready? And then 3 weeks later, they haven't done anything on it.
Mm.
Or in my own life, like I would set a goal. I'm like, yes, I have all the resources. I know how to do this. And 3 weeks later, I haven't done anything on it. And so what he discovered is there's two parts. There's like the part of us that's the soul led part, the expansion part that just wants more good, more God, more life, more yummy. And then there's this part that lives in the body, the all the limiting beliefs, all the fears. And so that's the work I do today, because I want to catch you when that soul thing gets you. And I'm like, yeah. But what happens is the little voice in your head is like, are you freaking kidding me? You're too old, you're too young, you're too stupid, you don't have enough certification. And so it's the navigating the human part, the unconscious, the scared part that wants to keep us safe, small, and stuck, because that's why we go forward and backward and we don't fully say yes. So that for me that's where it breaks down. And what happens is it leaves, women have like, raise your hand if you've like, what is wrong with me? I'm really smart. I like, I try really hard. Like, and I'm not a lazy loser. I'm not, well, I did do a lot of Netflix and chill this last week, but but it can really impact your self-esteem, and it creates like, what is and so that's why I always explain this concept, because there's like a natural expansion and then a contraction. Yeah. And if you don't understand that mechanism that's just natural,
yeah,
it's very painful, and you're going to either stop, waste money trying to fix it, or just know it's normal. It's just normal. Yeah. So that's the work I do.
Absolutely. And you're talking exactly what I refer to. There's two concepts that I speak about a lot, and that's the self-worth loop, but also the bungee cord effect. So the bungee cord effect, and that's tied to worth, because for me, fundamentally, unless you feel worthy of anything that you desire or want to achieve in life, then that cord is going to pull you back into that low self
100%.
every single time. But with practice, and as you say, with resilience and expanding your intuition and your soul and your wisdom, that cord becomes more resilient, and you can stretch it further, and it holds it, and it holds it because you're anchoring it into something that's really solid. But so, yeah, and the other concept that I like to talk about is the self-worth loop. And it's that fact, like the law of polarity is one of the things that I operate quite a lot from. So you've created your reality with every decision you've ever made in your life, consciously or unconsciously. And that can be a really difficult thing to kind of understand and accept. But if you understand that, then you can flip the script and you can create a new reality, which is positive, and you can be conscious and you can make those decisions from that conscious place. And then, as we said before, life starts to flow, life expands, your soul, your heart, everything expands. And that's, abundance expand everything. And that's kind of, since I started operating from that perspective, like life has flowed so much for me and has been beautiful. So talk us through kind of your journey through your business and life, and has any of that kind of come up for you?
That's can you make that a smaller question? Do we have 7 hours or 4 days? Pick one. Long or short?
I think so many of the concepts on this podcast can be like,
this is it. I know,
on their own. So it is, yeah, okay.
Let me narrow that
down. So was there a point where you realized that you had created your reality, and that bit where you thought you were happy and you weren't 100% happy?
There's multiples of points, but I'll give you one because it ties into a lot of what women struggle with, right? And I told you, when I came into the industry, it was it was a wild, wild west, and it was very masculine energy, right? And so the model was, and I had young kids at the time, so the model was, you just work like a man, you just work your butt off, right? And I have to say this, I had a coach, and I was so overwhelmed. My kids were really little, and he said, the problem with you is that you're lazy. I was like, what? He's a single dude, and sadly he taught coaches. He owned a coaching company, taught coaches, and he said, well, you're lazy. You're not willing to work like 16 hours a day. Like, why don't you just decide for a year, just take the year, don't really see your kids. My kid was like 2, right? Like, and I was, thankfully there was a little fighty part in me that I'm like, oh, you can just go screw yourself, buddy. Yeah. And I thought another woman would have just either listened to that horrible advice or made herself really wrong. And I tried to fight. I'm like, oh, I'm not. And he goes, okay, well, you like it cushy. And that was the predominant model at the time, very masculine, like hustle, grind. And so I had little kids, and I had 2 VAs who had young kids. Debbie, we literally would have our business meetings at 11 p.m. after the kids went to bed. And there was this like martyrdom, like, oh, like this suffering, but this way, because there was no talk of feminine energy. There was no permission. Like, the thing I give my clients is like, oh, what does your body need? You're tired, well, go rest. And so I built it that way, with the hustle and grind and sacrifice, and like, I sucked as a mom. I didn't really suck as a mom, but I, that guilt, like I want to be here, but I can't be there. And so I just finally got, and you know, God is good, and your soul will get you. And so I had some moments that brought me to my knees where I couldn't work. And I'm like, well, this sucks. And what I learned in those times when I was literally forced to not work, it was like, oh, okay. Well, if I take care of my body, my family, my life, God, you just got to make the bills pay and take care of the business. And so they're really, so much of the work I have come to, because I started out as a driver, a codependent people pleaser, and then add in when I started, that was the modality. And now it's surrender and trust and wait for the inspiration. So I've completely reinvented my whole operating system, and it's so much yummier. So now I love my life because I do it in harmony and in the rhythms
Yes.
that work for me. So that's a very big shift.
Yeah, I love that, and like so many of the guests before that I've spoken to, we talk a lot about like that feminine and masculine energy, and it's nothing to do with your gender or anything like that. It's, we've
Right.
all got both energies, and for me, it's always about that harmony. And I
Yeah.
think when as women, we are cyclical. We're all cyclical beings, but
Yes.
women have different cycles to men. But that we're very much meant to live in that feminine flow. Yes, we still need the masculine, because you can sit and be creative and dream up beautiful things, but without the action, the aligned action, that you're never going to get there. And so, that's like, I sat for, when I resigned from my day job at the start of this year, sat in the feminine energy of flow and surrender. And it was like, this is lovely. Oh, this is
So
beautiful.
nice.
And suddenly I was
Yeah.
like, I need to start earning some money for myself now.
Right.
So I need to
Right. Get
actually
out the
start
door.
taking action. And it's come gradually, but like that, I've been working with my energy, because I've got time to manage myself now. Like when I do feel like I need to rest, I can just down tools and go and sit on the sofa with George, who you met earlier, and just chill, for the rest of the afternoon. Sometimes it's just an hour with a cup of tea, and then I can come back and work again, and I feel energized. So
Yeah.
so you work a lot with energy, and like empaths, and like being an empathic person. And I suppose as women, we tend to absorb a lot of other people's energies and emotions, and that can be, as especially as people pleasers. And like, I know for myself, I tied my worth to really, how useful I could be to other people. It was
Oh.
never an expectation that was verbalized to me, but for some
It
reason,
was
I
like,
just developed the story. So I very much was like tuning into people all around me all the time, and absorbing their emotions, and feeling responsible for their emotions, and all the rest of it. You know the script. So, um, one of the things you now teach is kind of like releasing what's not your energy and what's not yours. So talk us through what
yeah,
what that means and how you do that.
love that. And first of all, I think we're born into it. I really
Mm.
do. This is the stuff that we literally are swimming in the waters of women. So there's the historical, right? Like look at our grandmothers and our ancestors. They just cared for people. That was their job. That was it. There was no career outside the home. It was your whole purpose is to care, often at her own expense, right? So number one, that's what we came from. That's the epigenetic thread that
Yeah.
runs through us. This is what we inherited. And then number two, it's the conditioning. We're still conditioned with because I'm probably a wee bit older than you. And I remember the first time I actually broke up with somebody, right? And it was a tough one. Um, and when I asserted I was not willing to know that, like, oh my God, you're such a B word. In my head, I was like, you're being such a,
Mhm.
and because that's the thing we don't like, oh, that would be the worst thing, like, selfish, mean, like. And so what I do is with my clients, I'm like, what would be the worst thing somebody would call you? And I could, let's say somebody would say selfish. I'd say, good. I'm Therese and I'm selfish. Say it, own it, because we need to get okay with the things we fear, because
Yeah.
we're projecting like, oh my gosh, but what if somebody thinks I am? And I'm like, oh, you might be, just get over it. And I'm being playful, but I'm not, because the
Mhm.
thing that we fear, it's like, if I'm resisting, oh my gosh, everybody has to think I'm a helper. What if somebody thought I was selfish? See, we're not in our authority when we're in like, they have to believe this about me,
Yeah.
as opposed to, I love to help. And then when I don't want to help, I don't help. So I always say, what's the fear? So what drives this motivation to always be there for everybody? And you nailed it, right? That's how we get our love needs met. Why do you think I was a therapist, girlfriend? Come on. I got paid for it. And I still slip in. And so I just say, understand what's the driver. And if you're like Debbie and myself, you're never gonna be sitting on the sidelines going, I don't care, screw yourself, I don't care. You're never gonna be over there. But all behavior comes as a pendulum, like we talked about a little bit, like, with the, so you're gonna be over here like giving yourself away, and then you're gonna have some boundaries, and then you're gonna feel like, oh my gosh, I'm just being so evil because I'm letting them live their own lives, right? Having adult children will do that to you. That like, wait, you're doing what? Oh, that's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
I guess you'll have to see how that's going to work, right? So just watch the why, and watch it's because it's identity. I had an identity, as you have, about I'm a helper. I serve people. I'm always there. And so then what's a better identity? Because the opposite of that is I'm selfish, I'm greedy, I'm a B word.
Yeah.
What would be a better identity? Like if you work at the level of identity, it's like, so for me, I'm like, I'm love. I'm a really loving person. And if I can give from my fullness, yeah, you're going to get a boatload. But I love myself first, right? So my identity is I have to take care of me first, and you get the overflow. So those were some concepts. I know we talk about the same thing. So I'd love to hear your perspective on some of this too.
No, absolutely. And I love that. Like I'm a big believer in a good reframe. And I really love that concept that you spoke there about, like, my identity is this, like I'm a people pleaser, or I'm a helper, or I'm the one that does everything in the home, and if I don't, the opposite is that I'm selfish and I don't care, or whatever you're believing. And it's then about, it's not necessarily finding the middle ground, or maybe it is, but sometimes it's the better identity that you speak of. And I love that concept, because when we can really tap into, like, why do we feel like we're going to be called the really bad word, or be thought of as something awful or selfish or whatever. It taps into like a belief or a story within ourselves. And sometimes that's where the epigenetics bit comes in, because sometimes it's not even our own stories.
Oh, so much so.
How absorbed, as I said, like nobody ever told me you're only worthy if you're helping me. Nobody ever said that to me. Somewhere that's been part of my makeup. And so, like, even as you were talking, I'm thinking like this, what's my better identity again? And I've kind of stepped into some of that, through the general work that I've done. But yeah, it's always so important to kind of really think about, a lot of I was actually writing some content today around the fact that, people will often chase the aesthetic lifestyle, so the designer clothing and handbags and the cars and the holidays and the homes and all the rest of it. Right. That brings you joy 100%. You do you. But I often find that the people that I've spoken to and worked with, it's driving and a perceived as how they want to be perceived. And underneath that is often insecurities and kind of the limiting beliefs and the lack and the low self-worth. So this sense of, if society sees me presenting or portraying this lifestyle, I will suddenly be worthy or be seen as worthy by others. So I'd love to hear your take on that.
One of the concepts that I lived a lot and have overcome is shame. And if you come from trauma, it could be your trauma, it could be generational. I got the Irish thing. So our people were driven out. There's a lot of suffering in my people. And so when you come with shame, and it could be big T trauma or little T trauma, whatever it is, there's the belief that, like, you walk in the room and you're already less than. It's like shame is the great liar that says you're just not enough. So when that is driving you, unfortunately, no, most people don't walk around going, oh, I'm just not enough today. Most people walk around because it's subliminal, like they don't know it. And our society is, look at all the marketing, like, oh, you could be more, you could be better. Just buy this handbag, wear this makeup. Like, so we're kind of living in a it's like a crack house for shame.
Oh my God, that's like gold, that what you've just said. Yeah,
it is. And so if the core of you, like if you walk into a room, here's a question, you walk into a room now, you might not have the same education, you might not have the same monetary privilege. You might not have the same health or beauty, but when you walk in, are you like, I'm good, we're good? Or are you like, because nobody one-ups usually. Usually you're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
look at them. Oh, they're younger. Oh, they're smarter. Oh, so whenever that's the driver, you're going to compensate for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because a person like me today, I can say, yeah, I'm not available for that. That just doesn't work for me, because I know I'm okay. And I don't need your approval. And I don't need you to like, oh my God, Tristan, so good. That's like a drug hit, right? Whereas a person that is desperate to be validated and like needing that external, like, you did great today. Oh, I couldn't have done it without you. Our little, and it's okay. And there's no judgment here. And I love I'm like words, like the love
Words
language.
of
Give
affirmation.
me all the words. Right? But it's like, it's just a nice little hit, but I don't chase it.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing is like, when you have shame underneath and the foundation of your life, you're not free.
Mm-hmm. And
so what I always say, the way I work with my clients is like, okay, what does your body want? Because our drivers are the meaning that like you're used to chasing the thing, but okay, stop, truth. What does your body really need right now? And you would say, I don't want to go to that thing. Okay, don't go. Okay, what if your heart could talk right now? What would it say? If your soul had just words, what's really, you see what I mean? When I get you out of your need to be validated, and I think I'm clearing for everybody here, because I'm like, what is happening? So I'm doing clearing for y'all. Okay. And so there's that adaptive way of getting our love needs met. And then the real way of like, if I were a sovereign woman that was just loved by God and just in my own authority, what would I do right now? Okay, that's what I do. So those are the ways that I navigate it.
Yeah. I've scribbled down so many notes as you were talking. Like as all my guests do, they always speak my language, but it's like I really, that bit. And I was a business coach and marketing for a while as well. It's kind of what on my journey to where I've landed today. But I think like I can now, like, I watch adverts on TV, advertisements on TV, or like I see billboards and things, and I'm like that. They absolutely sell the lifestyle. They're not selling the car; they're selling the lifestyle. You could have these magical, weekends driving through beautiful scenery in this big fancy car, and it shows all these scenic shots and all that. And I'm like, it does draw you in. And then I'm like, I see you. You're totally tapping into that need to want to have, so, but as you say, it's like, I like that description of like, it's like we're living in a crack house, totally kind of like capitalizing on that shame and that, like that need and want to be better and to have the next new thing and the next fancy gadget and all the rest of it. So, and I think that the whole shame and trauma and, the self-worth is also interwoven with each other, that, like we have to heal all those different bits. And a lot of what I talk about in the work that I do is that, healing shame, anger, guilt, all the big scary emotions that we don't like to, sadness that we don't like to feel, that we're afraid to feel. It's not about kind of like healing it and then putting it away. It's like integrating, and it's about understanding. And again, this comes back to the part of your current reality is a culmination of every decision that you've made, every thought that you've thought, every feeling that you felt. And if we can integrate that and start to kind of build our whole self from that, that's when we start feeling a bit more solid in our foundation than how we show up in the world.
I have I have so much on shame. And nobody loves to talk about shame. So thank you for letting me talk about shame.
Oh, it's the first time this concept has been introduced on the podcast. So you've got
it's everything. It's everything. So, because again, shame is like, I am defective. No matter what I do, I'm defective, right? So you're always on a hamster wheel trying to get more, get better, more. So when my clients say, well, I don't know, I need another certification, I'm like, So I did a retreat years ago, and here's what I know about shame. Shame cannot live where the light is. Okay. And most of us think of the things that you are the most, oh my God, if anybody knew that about me. Okay. So when shame stays in the dark, shame stays inside, it builds and grows and has power over you. So I did this retreat. It was the coolest. It was the most intense. It was live. It was in person. And I said, we're going to have a skeleton party. We're going to bust your shame today. And so I had all these, it was really super fun. I had I tore up sheets, and I had like where women could like shroud themselves and wrap stuff on them. And then I had little papers where they would pin things to themselves. So the assignment was, okay, you're going to write down 2 to 3 things, or 8, I don't care how many, your big shame things. And you're going to write, like, for example, one woman, I had an affair. Another woman, I had an abortion. Another woman, I went bankrupt, whatever it was, right? Whatever their shame thing was. And they had to walk up to another woman and say, will you still love me even if I cheated on my husband? And the woman in front of her just said, of course I will love you. And that is the remedy to shame. Because we can't love ourselves right yet when it's inside, but when we can bring it to the light and have safe people and say, this is the thing that I find so horrible about, like, this is the part of me that I just hate so much. And if you could say, and Therese, I would love you right there. Game changer.
I feel it. I feel it right. Like I've got the tingles all the way through. It's
That's the game changer.
Yeah. And it's like, I've seen a similar exercise where, I've seen somebody come on and do a video, and it's like, I'm getting married next week, and I ate, a whole pint of ice cream, and, my friend came and said to me, you're greedy, and you're fat, and, you're ridiculous. Jesus. How could you do that? How could you ruin it? Blah, blah, blah. And like, you could feel yourself kind of going like, how dare your friend speak to you that way? And then she's like, that's the conversation I had with myself. And I would never say that to a friend in that way. I would be supportive. And that's so and powerful. That's what it is. Like,
exactly.
And it's the bit that you said, like, when you can get out of your head and into your body and into your soul, because that, like, our body gives us all the signals, our soul gives us all the signals. And, when we can really tap into that, that's where that's where the light goes and where the life flows. And, just we can't go wrong. We can't do wrong if we're truly coming from that place of true love and from our soul's wisdom.
And most people can't differentiate the soul part versus the little inner voice critic, right? So let's say I say, Debbie, I have this cool opportunity for you. You're going to do this. And your soul might have like a big yes. And then your mind and body are like, oh, but your soul's never going to tell you you're a stupid piece of crap. That's how you distinguish. You might, your body might have some adrenaline. You might like that roller coaster, like, oh God, like that. But if it's shrouded with the, any like that, how are you eating that? That is not from your higher self, but that's from your lower self. That's like, and so you can just go, oh, well, thanks for sharing. Go lay down. No. So make sure you're distinguished, because some people, what happens, Debbie, is they're like, oh, this idea, oh, I have a bunch of fear, so it's probably not in God's. No, it is. Mm-hmm. It is. Stop. That's not God telling you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, and that's such a key point. And actually was in a recent podcast episode we're discussing that. Like, how do you know when it's your intuition genuinely telling you like, no, this is not the right thing for you? And when is it just like fear in your mind and like your ego going, no, this is too scary, I don't want to do it? And that, for me, it's like being present, slowing down, being conscious with it. And because when we're unconscious, we just go with what's in the mind and the ego, because it's easy and it's safe and it's familiar. And that's, so whenever we're doing something different, it's going to feel a little bit scary because it's expansive and it's out of our comfort zone. But like, if it still feels expansive and still feels a little bit exciting and good, let's go for it. And that's how I've got myself to where I am today, where I've resigned from a stable and secure job. I'm, full-time in my business, and I have less of a plan out for my life than I've ever had. It's like,
but you're following it, right?
You're gonna go with it and go with the flow, and I trust that everything will always work out for me.
Well, see, that's the thing. Let's talk about that, because sometimes people have not had an experience of being able to trust that things work out for them, right? If you've had trauma, if you've had difficulty, if things haven't worked out for you. And so it's like how to develop, like, oh, wait, even like, because I love the premise that what you have now is a creation of your own ideas, thoughts, right? And so maybe you just created something not so great, and you can co-create. something different. But if you haven't had like, oh, things do work out. So some of it is just habit, right? Even if it's a tiny, tiny, like I went through bankruptcy years ago. And when you go through bankruptcy, you do not feel very abundant, right? Like, and I was focusing on, I was just in constriction. I lost my house, lost my car. It was a wretched time. Horrible. Talk about shame. Wow, what a loser I was, right? Like I was killing myself with the shame. But one day I noticed I had gone to Costco. We have Costco, there's like big bulk stores, right?
Yeah.
And I bought like, I don't know, a 50 pack of toilet paper, right? And all my thoughts were on, this is horrible, poor me, this is the worst thing ever, oh God, I'm a loser. And I looked at the toilet paper and I'm like, I have an abundance of toilet paper. Like, what? I have so much toilet paper. And then I started like, I have so much nature outside. There's like, I can't even count all the leaves. Then I was like, wait, I have so many people loving me. Wait, I have an abundance. So the situation, as I say, the 3D, the situation, the fact was, oh my, I was in a dire strait there. But the truth was, I can always get a better thought and go, but look what is working. Look what is abundant. Look what is possible. So it's a discipline. You have to train your, because we get, especially if your nervous system is jacked up, like when you're in a trauma state, you know. So what I did in that place, because I couldn't believe I was going to get through it. So I had a friend every day. She would call me every day and she would pray with me and she would say, I'm giving gratitude in advance. I know this situation is resolved, because I couldn't do it. So I had somebody hold it for me to help pull me out of it. So if you can't do it yourself, get somebody who believes in you and holds it for you. That's imperative.
Oh, like that's like so much about what this podcast is about, like gratitude and seeing the abundance that's already around you. Like
Yeah.
I often
Yeah.
think this, and like I don't drive a lot nowadays because I'm not commuting to work or anything anymore. But like when you, I don't know if you drive, but when you fill your car up with fuel and you've got the full tank, and the needle's right the way over, and you literally feel like I can go anywhere. To like the
Right.
world's white oyster.
Right.
And the minute
Right.
the needle starts moving, you're like, oh, better start driving a bit more conservative, save my fuel. I'm not gonna, do I really need to and you start like, as the needle goes down, you start becoming like less and less feeling abundant, like until you fill it up again, and then you're like, right, okay, I can go. But it's like just finding the little things that you can be grateful for. And there's a song that I listen to every single morning. I've got my alarm set to it. It's called
Oh,
Grateful by an artist called Saint Finnegan, and he's a very spiritual artist.
oh
And
yeah, yeah.
like the once the kind of introductory bit is done, like he literally sings, grateful I woke up again, woke up and took a breath again, woke up and saw the sun again, and it's literally like some mornings that is all we can do, is
Yeah.
literally like
Right.
be grateful that we've opened our eyes and took a breath. But there'll be other mornings where we'll be grateful for so much more. But it's, as you say, it then builds. And like, you now, well, certainly on the podcast with me presenting, is very bold, very joyful, very free. And
Yeah. Yeah.
has there been a moment recently where you kind of stopped and thought, like this full circle moment where you've realized how far you've come?
Oh my, I do a lot of gratitude walks with my dog. I'm in Arizona, it's all desert, but I live next to a golf course.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, oh, that's
Lovely.
my time, that's my meditation. And my two lads, I have Danny and John, because I secretly wanted a couple girls and I never got the girls, right? They have the most amazing girlfriends, and the girls are like daughters. And so I just am like, I have everything. I have a beautiful partner. I have a great dog. I I I just am like, oh, and it was really weird, like the addition of the girls, because there was a little part of my soul, I'm like, I wanted girls. I wanted a girl. Just give me a girl to play with. And one of the girls that lives in the same city, every day she's like, hi, Queen, what are you doing? How are you? Do you want to hang out? I'm like, and it was nothing I had to do. It was just, there was a desire somewhere for like, maybe next life I'll have a girl. And I adore my boys, but they're, they're different. Boys are different.
Yeah.
And so just for me, it's like family. The lads are in a really good place today and the girls are great. And so I think I spent so much of my time striving, and it's like, oh, I have everything I've ever always wanted. And, that doesn't mean everything is always, I'm recovering from a knee injury and I was sick for a month. So in spite of the transient situations, I'm like, wow, I have everything I've ever wanted. Now I will tell you, here's a flip for transparency. And now I'm like, oh, I'm not motivated anymore. Because I was motivated. I have to go save the people and I gotta hustle. And now I'm like, or I can just watch Netflix, so I swung a little, right? And now I have to go, okay, what's my motivation? A clean motivation and not a motivation based on getting something that was from the outside. So that's been an interesting, I'm like so flowy. I was like, girl, maybe go record a video. It's so I will tell you that's, but so I'm really happy today. I just love all the things in my life. So thank you for noticing that.
Oh, I love that so much. And thank you so much for just sharing all your story and your insights. And one thing that really stood out for me was what's the better identity? I really love that. Somebody else that I follow talks about always choose the higher road. But that's going to become one of my mantras now. In any situation, always choose the higher road, but always choose the better identity. So if I feel this and I feel like this is where I'm getting pulled into, what's the better identity again? What's the next level up? And I love that. Beautiful. So I'm sure that my listeners will want to find out a lot more about you and what you do. So tell us, where do you hang out on social media? Where's your website?
Hang out on Facebook. LinkedIn scares me. I don't do that very well. Facebook is my main platform. You can catch my website. And again, it's designed, it has a business focus, but I just masquerade as a business coach. I do so much life coaching. In fact, can I tell you a story? Next week, I'm flying to Dallas to attend a wedding of a client that I got her married because she saw me on social media. We're friends. And she's like, you have such a cool relationship with Scott. Could you help me do that? And I coached her, and it was around limiting beliefs, it was around identity, and they're getting married. And so I do all kinds of things. I do so much life coaching and spiritual coaching and energy, and business is just a part of it. So, and you can just reach out as well, ts@thereseskelly.com. I'm super relational. Ask me a question, share your ideas, what you heard on this podcast. I would love to hear from you.
Awesome.
I'm a meditation teacher on Insight Timer, and people love my meditations. So they're really, really soulful and yummy. So Insight Timer.
Awesome. I'm on Insight Timer. Every single night I put meditations on going to bed. I'm a teacher on it as well. I've got some.
I didn't know that. Okay, I'll follow you.
Definitely, I'm going to find you and put that on. So that's amazing to hear. And we'll put all the links in the show notes so people can access that and find you easily. And it's been such a joy to speak to you. I've enjoyed this conversation so much.
And delightful. Thank you, Debbie. Much love.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Your Worth Your Way. I know you'll be walking away feeling inspired and ready to embrace your worth and prioritize your joy. If you loved this episode, I'd be so grateful if you could leave a review or share it with someone who needs a little bit of encouragement today. And don't forget to hit that follow button so you never miss another episode. And you can connect with me, find out more about the podcast, what I do, and my guests at debbielucas.me/links. And if you don't already, follow me on your favorite social media platforms. I'd love to hear your thoughts and continue the conversation there. And until next time, remember that you are worthy exactly as you are.